of the good things, not bad things that I do. And so I am an associate director or associate pastor or campus missionary or person who works in a church. Alrighty? All those good things. I wanted to give a review. Mikey has been talking to us about or taking us through his Untapped series, which basically was in so many different ways looking into the question, what if there is more? What if there's more to life? What if there's more to God? What if there's more to your addiction than just what's been spoken to you? What if there's more to, the problems that you have in your life? So from it, this message that's been laid upon my heart can maybe be the fifth part of that. I'm going to be covering some scriptures that Mikey has covered. I'm going to give my take on them. This could maybe be from where we're at now, this bridge from the sermon series that we just came from into the sermon series that we're about to go into, where it's going to deal with intimacy with God, connecting with God, among so many other things. And so last week, if you weren't here with us, we looked at addictions and what God has to say on that topic. Tonight, I hope to take you through several stories. So it's going to be story time with Cooper tonight, all right? Yeah! From it, my hope is that with every story that I present to you, you'll find yourself. I've been here since 2009. I gave my heart to Christ November 22nd of 2009, so my spiritual birthday's coming up. And I came to God with very little understanding of him, if any. I remember growing up around the church, never in it, and I understood that God was somewhere in the sky. He's really big, scary. I'm supposed to be good, whatever that means. And if I do bad, he's angry. Crap, that's all I understood. That was my knowledge and understanding of God. And so from it, whenever I got my first Bible, my freshman year, 2009, I was afraid to open it. Legit, I thought that if I opened this bad boy without being good or enough, or I felt soiled, right? Just like dirty, this is clean. Don't let me touch it. I'm going to infect it. And if I open it, boom, explosion, I'm gone. One less problem for God to worry about. That was my understanding. That's my knowledge. So, I speak from what I've experienced, not what I grew up in. So I didn't know all the Bible stories. I didn't grow up understanding that he was a real person. Real person. You can interact with him, and he interacts with you. He uses all kinds of different things to interact with. Didn't understand any of that. I was afraid of him. And so my faith in God, or relationship with God, when I'm speaking about God, has gone through testing. I have tested the things that he's talked about when I finally got over my fear that I'm not going to spontaneously combust in opening his word. It's been through testing him. Okay, you say this, so if you say this, that means I can do this. Oh, cool. No, I'm just kidding. And so I've tested him to see what he said actually had weight, to see if what he said could be trusted, if it was real. Because this book, the Bible, is really, 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 really old. And this God is less than visible. And somehow I'm supposed to trust in him with everything that I understand about the life that I've lived. That's a hard sale. Yet here I am, living in his house. I live at the Wesley. I work with his people. And I wouldn't do anything else other than what I'm doing now. So, if you are new to the faith, I'm going to try to give you something. If you don't have any faith, cool. I'm going to try to give you something. If you do have faith, I'm going to try to give you something. Amen? All right, so from this, let's get started. I have a problem for you. I remember whenever I was coming up in the faith, Proverbs 3 was like one of the first books that I read. Proverbs 3, it's like in the middle of the Bible. They call it Hebrew wisdom literature. Bible is old school text, right, from the Hebrew culture. And so from it, I was like, man, I don't know what wisdom is, but I remember that it's something good, so I probably should get some. So flip through the book, land in Proverbs 3. It was one of my first things that I memorized was Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 6. I think some of us know it. And so it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Cool. And lean not on your own understanding. Pause. Cool. Understanding. I want you to keep that, all right? We're going to be saying that word a lot tonight. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Remember when I read it, I was like, all my feelings? All right, cool, here's my feelings. And lean not on your own understanding. Okay, cool. So check my understanding at the door and leave it there. Cool. Well, I read that verse, memorized it. I was like, all right, cool, yeah. Trust in God, I got this. Well, I read the next chapter. Proverbs 4, verse 5. I'm reading it down. This one's built more like the way that the writer had it. It says, if he's an older man speaking to his son. And so he's going, and he's telling his son to do some things. And then from it, he says, yo, kid, acquire wisdom, acquire understanding. Do not forget and do not turn aside from the words I speak. As I keep on reading, wisdom, Proverbs 4, verse 7, wisdom is supreme. So acquire wisdom, and whatever you acquire understanding. Anyone see a problem here? Maybe not. All right, so I remember that this book, the Bible, in my first or second year of following Jesus, I was reading this book, the book of Proverbs, and I saw something funny. I felt funny about Proverbs 3 and Proverbs 4. The problem that I saw was a paradox. God, you tell me to basically check my understanding at the door and then just trust you. And then you tell me in the next chapter to acquire understanding. In fact, don't just acquire it, I mean, get like heat-seeking missile pursuit of it. I'm talking about like cheetah running after a gazelle, go after understanding. And the way that I felt funny, it's like, so do I go for understanding? Do I? Man, this is uncomfortable. I remember one time Mikey's youth pastor came up, and it's like if you're ever in tension, you're like on a fence. And you imagine if you sat on a fence, you wouldn't feel comfortable. And so my thinking was, how can you tell me or someone to not trust in their understanding while also telling them to gain understanding? So I dwelt on this, and I put it on the back burner, and then I brought it back to the front of my mind. And it's funny, within this year, I'm going to dare say, if I can understand the time, within this month, this is what I felt God tell me. Well, Cooper, I picture God. He's like cool, like the other side of the pillow. I guess that all depends on whose understanding you should lean on or not lean on. I'm going to say that again. I guess that would all depend on whose, capital W, understanding you should lean on versus not lean on. Dang it, God. All right. I can look back at various parts of my life with God and see where I leaned on my own understanding, my own knowledge, my own wisdom, my own strength versus His. What I mean by that is, I can look back at seasons of my life, and 10 years, right, of following God, 10 years of trying to understand who this God is, never having any knowledge before, 10 years of testing things that He said that when I finally opened His book, I was reading, it's like, okay, you say this so I can do this, you say this so I can do this, you say don't do that, so I'm going to try, okay, no, definitely not doing that again. 10 years of this, going from nothing to something. And this is what I see. Find yourself in this. I was stressed out about school, and whenever I began getting stressed out about school, I rearranged my priorities. Whenever I rearranged my priorities, I usually placed Him personally, or Him and His people at the bottom of the list. I remember I was running around with a herdsman. Story time. Running around with the herdsmen. Herdsmen are cool people. I loved their jackets. See, back in the day, the herdsmen had these giant Letterman black jackets that said herdsman on the back. I was like, yeah, heaven or high water, I want one of those. I want the prestige. I want people to know that, yeah, I run with the buffalo. Chest popped out. I wanted that. I didn't vocalize that to anybody. I was, it'd be weird. I'd look prideful or something. And so from it, running around with the herdsmen, and the herdsmen had practice Tuesdays, and then they had their meetings that night, 30 minutes after 2 posts, or 30 minutes after 2 posts had started. So I was like, oh, yeah, I can kill two birds with one stone. I'll go over for two posts for the three songs that they always do. And then, all right, and then I'll go to the meeting. That way I please God and I get my jacket. Well, God didn't like that. He says, I'm either the Lord of all or not at all. And so from it, that decision cost me. It ended up costing me my relationship with God, which I'm going to talk a little bit about here later, like why that's so important. Why is that such a big deal? Can't God just forgive you? Absolutely. But you can also hurt his feelings, like your boyfriend or girlfriend. Next story. Usually whenever I was looking back at my seasons of life, I saw where someone had hurt someone's feelings that was near to me, and I was like counseling with them, and sometimes their anger would become my anger, like, yeah, you shouldn't have done that. What, that? Oh, man, next time I see him, I got you, yo. And so from it, hurting someone around me hurts me. I think you can relate to this. And then there was this one season where someone actually hurt me directly. And from it, I had offenses brewing in me, and I didn't really know how to deal with them because I'm supposed to be joyful and I'm supposed to be loving. And it's like I was chained to something, and I was like trying to move, I want to love. I can't love. I want to be joyful, and I just can't be joyful. And this one, I got hurt one season by a close friend. This close friend humiliated me in front of my fellow peers. And it was a weird feeling. It's like, I love you, but you hurt me, and I haven't felt this before. This is weird, and I need to continue being friends with you, but I really don't want to be by you. And I started not being able to love like I could, trust like I'd wanted to, and then really live life, right? All these actions and stuff that I would normally do just willy-nilly easily because I was hurt, and I didn't know how to deal with my hurt. What I understood before was I just need to go get even. And I know plenty about, people's lifestyles, so I could just intervene right here and hurt them back, and maybe I'll feel better. But then I look back at my past, and every time that I did that, I just wanted to do that more. It was never enough, or I just felt worse because look what I did to that person. Now they're hurt too. Right? Just gonna keep on telling stories. Just keep staring at me. Next part of my life, as I'm looking down memory lane, whenever I was stressed, whenever I got hurt, I remember that at one point in following God, I threw up my hands and I didn't know how to pray. It's weird. I dare say within the last 5 years or maybe less, I was actually in, Tracy doesn't know this, I was actually in Tracy's office and I picked up one of her books, and it's by Richard Foster, cool author, knows a lot of spiritual good stuff, and it literally says prayer on it. And I was like, okay, no one's looking. Just grab this book, lock all the doors so nobody knows that this leader doesn't know how to pray, and then crack this bad boy open and start memorizing stuff. Man, what's in here? I didn't know how to pray. I felt silly walking up to somebody and be like, hey, what's up? Yeah, I know. Yeah, I've been following God for 5 years. Yeah, you too? Great. Can you teach me how to pray? Something about that messed with the insecurities that I couldn't voice. Insecurities of not feeling like I was enough or not feeling like I did enough to show God that I loved him. I had a lot of fear versus love. We spoke about this last Sunday at FUMC Canyon, the church that I visit on Sundays, that Scripture says perfect love, his love, when it's allowed inside of you, casts out all those fears. It's like his love pours in, and the fears kind of just bubble up, and then they come out of you. And then you're full of love versus fear. I saw that some people laid, some people kneeled, some people stood, some people were loud, some people were quiet. Some people kept on quoting Bible verses, boom, 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 boom. Others just unloaded how they felt. Some people cried, some people yelled. It's like, how does this work? What's acceptable? And then lastly, as I was looking down memory lane, Scripture says that God doesn't just have love, but that he is love. And then he says that out of everything that you could remember, love him, love yourself, and then love other people. And that if you're not motivated by this, everything that you do is just to waste. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't stand for anything. It's not eternal. It's just temporary. Well, I didn't understand that. And so I knew how to work hard This was within the last 3 years. I knew how to work hard, but I didn't understand relationship or intimacy. Trusting God wasn't a thing, really. And working alongside him definitely wasn't a thing, as if he were actually a near person. What this would look like is I knew the responsibilities that I had as a minister. I liked those responsibilities because I liked people. I'd want to hear from people. I want to work alongside people, but the more responsibilities that stacked up, the more I would give, and I would give, and I would give, and I never made time or understood how to make time for God because I'm working for God. I'm trying to prove to him that I love him. I'm trying to prove to him that I care, that I'm not the lazy one. I'm the one that's going to go after it. You give me something, I'm going to go multiply it, God, and then I'm going to give you praise. And all of these things were good, but the inside of me wasn't good. I was afraid. These insecurities that I had, these fears that I had, I didn't know how to voice them. And so I just kept them. And I talked to God sometimes about it, but then I'd be really afraid of him. I'd be like, I'm so sorry that I'm so dumb and broken. I just need to go over here. Mikey saw this all the time. I'd go to him at mentor time, and he'd just be like, stop beating yourself up. Please, stop it. Who told you to do this? I was like, I don't know. It's just broken and here and here. And good thing I have a friend like Mikey, older man like Mikey, spiritual father figure like Mikey, who's willing to listen to me, hold my hand, hug me, let me cry, and pour out this fear that's coming out of me. Pour out this understanding, and then sometimes take it, remove it, and then put his understanding back in. Because lo and behold, Mikey's been through the same stuff. It'd be kind of funny for you to test, if you're in Fusion, that's our small group stuff, for you to see what issues you have, and then let your Fusion leader into those issues. I bet you they've gone through them as well. Or maybe you're in our mentor program, our Bigs and Littles program. Bring your stuff to them, and I bet they've gone through it as well. And if not, you guys can come together. That's how friendship's made, sometimes. So far, so good? I'm just telling stories. This is just where I've come from. So, time for some heavier stuff. Oh, crap, what? Story of learning. I remember coming to faith and everything being so new. I remember that everyone, upon me actually coming to faith and being a part of this community, I never had friends who acted like this. I never had people in my life that wanted to listen to me like people here at the Wesley wanted to. I'd never been part of a church. The most that I'd gone to was on Sundays, Easter, and I'd show up and we'd do some kind of exercise, it looked like. We'd stand up whenever he says stand up. We'd kneel whenever that guy in the front says kneel. Everybody knew what to say, and I didn't know what to say, and I'm just... And then we leave, and somehow I feel kind of lighter and better, and mom's real happy, and dad's real happy, and that was my understanding. So when I came in here, I was kind of scared. I didn't try to let people into that because you can't be a punk like that and be scared. Vulnerable? That's dumb. And so from it, the reason I was scared is because I knew how imperfect I was, and I didn't know that everybody else was like that. I thought everybody in the church was perfect. Top of which, kind of this color. And so I grew up thinking that because I was this color, I'm what's wrong with America. Dang, that was real. Cool. So growing up with those things, among others, a lot of insecurities, a lot of brokenness. I felt awkward and strangely belittled, maybe exposed being around these Christians. Like at any minute, they were going to see my insecurities, my flaws, and call them out, or like I didn't belong. Hey, what are you doing here? You're so right, I'm out of here. Because I know how imperfect and undeserving I am. Story number 2. So I progress, and I don't give up. And I really feel this calling to do the Wesley Academy. Raise your hands, anybody here hear about the Wesley Academy? Alrighty, cool, some hands raised. From it, it's basically our attempt to build up, after you graduate, missionaries. People who want to serve in the church, want to learn, but they want to do what they've been doing maybe as student leaders here, but as their job, aside from classes. And so from it, I was like, man, I really loved everything that we did here at the Wesley. You know, I got to be RA of a residence hall, go RAs. but also a Bible study leader. And then I got to like build up people around me, given like what I'd been given, I got to give to them. This life that God had given me and what I understood about, I got to give to them. And then I get to do that as a job. Like, I'm down, sign me up. One problem, it looked really irresponsible for me to do this. See, I had a lot of debts, FAFSA, getting student loans. I think you guys understand that pretty well. And so from it, I was in debt. And the Wesley Academy, this program, this missionary program, that I was like, yeah, I really feel like that's what I need to do. I feel like, everything that I want to do in life, at least at this point, this would allow me to do. But I'm chained to debt. And, I got to raise funds because, missionaries, as they go overseas, they raise money. Well, my overseas is here, Canyon. Here's my culture. Here are my people. This is where I'm at. This is who I want to impact. But to the first world American mindset, what that looks like is you just graduated college and you're going to beg people for money. I had a lot of conversations with family members. They didn't like that. And so I felt like God wanted me to be a missionary, and I had to trust others to support me. Trust other people? Are you kidding me? Begging people to go relive my college years. Coop, go get a real job. What are you doing? So, I had to deal with that in my heart. Next story. Seeking the kingdom. Well, Mikey, being who he is, faithful to God, gets up on stage, last two posts, says some really prophetic stuff, and I'm like, you know what, God, I'm just going to throw myself at this, and if I fail, then I fail. Boom, and I throw myself into the academy. Insecurities and everything, fears and everything. And I'm in it. And then this next fear comes about. So now I'm a missionary. Now I'm on staff. I'm excited to be able to do what I love the most, listen to people, walk with people through their problems, invite God into people's lives, and give what life-healing love that has been given to me to others in everything that I do. That's great, Cooper, says this voice in my head. What about your daily life? How are you going to provide for yourself now that you don't have the calf to prepare your meals? Oh, crap, I didn't think about that. Custodians providing toilet paper for you. You have to buy that? Oh, Coop, you have bills. Coop. Not to mention, you have maybe $100 to your name right now. Dang it. So I had this overwhelming feeling in how I was going to provide for my needs with little to no budget. So I started learning about budgeting. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get on this grown man stuff. I'm adulting, I'm learning about budgeting. And I figured out that if I wanted to live this certain way, I needed this certain amount of money. And that just messed me up. I felt like I probably misheard God. This didn't make sense. I'm being irresponsible. On top of which, the people closest to me, they were just saying all of that as well. This is dumb. Get a real job. You're irresponsible. What are you doing? Why are you reliving your college years? Go do something else. But I feel... Last story. Last year we did a sermon series on angels and demons. It was cool. It was called Whispers. Mikey's been blessed to be a movie director, and so he sees things and knows how to direct things and bring stories to life. Kind of like Jesus. Mikey says that if Jesus were alive today, he'd be in Hollywood. Why is that? Because he loves to tell stories. Parables, they're just stories. And so from it, Mikey likes to tell stories. God gives him confidence, and boom, we're here. And so he created this story, and he invited us into it, and we got to act in it. It was really cool. And from it, one of the scenes he was explaining to me, and then I finally got to see it, involves the hero. He's praying. The hero gets to see in the spiritual realm, and he's seeing like angels and demons everywhere, and he's freaking out. He's like, I see dead people. And so he's like really worried. Can only imagine. And so from it, he's in the church, and he's praying. Oh, God, help me, please. Oh, God. And then two angels walk in, and he sees them, and he's like, oh. And they start talking, and he realizes they're the good guys. He's like, yeah, what's up, cuz? And then he talks to them, and one of them is super chill. Man, cool like the other side of the pillow. So he's like encouraging him, and he's like feeling good. Then the other angel, this is what spoke to me. Other angel had very little patience for humans. and he was kind of moody. And so the other angel had this level of understanding about God and humans, and the human had this level of understanding. There's a gap. And so from it, the hero is getting overwhelmed by all of these needs on his life. He's getting overwhelmed by, I wrote these down. He's getting overwhelmed by everything that his life now means. And he sees that what is needed and the strength and the knowledge and understanding is way more than he has right now. And so from it, he says, well, what do I do? And then this is what spoke to me. The angel, indignant. What do you do? What do you mean, what do you do? Pray, you idiot. What are you talking about? And he goes off on him, like roasting him. I was like, gosh, you're like a little infant. You've been given like such amazing like stuff, and you don't know how to use it. And then the other angel's like, whoa, chill. Go over there. You're in timeout right now. I'm sorry, man. My homeboy's had a hard day. You can imagine Satan's just like talking, like mad smacking. And so from it, that scene speaks to me, right? Shows this contrast. It's kind of cool. It's kind of funny. But the scene spoke to me because at that point in my life, this was like, within the last few years, I had been a minister for at least 8 years then. I felt overwhelmed by the amount of work, responsibilities, and cost of living for Christ. Cost of living for Christ. It's heavy. Not a lot of people do it. What was deepest of all is that I no longer was motivated by God's love. I was beginning to love people less and less and began to wonder if what I was really doing mattered. If what I was really doing was something that I was supposed to do anyway. So whenever this angel speaking to the hero says, what do you mean, what do you do? You're supposed to pray. This reflected back on me of how much I don't pray. So then that means what am I really doing? I was contemplating about how if I don't even like praying at this point in my life. It's awkward with me and God. Like I actually don't like God. I can't say that. That's weird. I'm doing everything for God. Why does God just feel like another checklist, another responsibility? And so, is anybody vibing with me on any of these stories? Can anyone find themselves in these stories? So someone say, what do we do? Pray you. No, I'm just kidding. No. Where I'm at now, I'm at a point in my life where I have more responsibilities than I've ever had, more pressures on my life than I've ever had, more demands on my life than I've ever had, and yet I'm the most peaceful I've ever been. I'm the most confident I've ever been. Cool, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, must be God. Because from it, in answering, what do we do? Pray, ... But with his understanding. What I've been doing this season in my life, and it started with Mikey, because Mikey kind of tunes into God. Mikey talks to God, God talks back, and he's this covering, this spiritual father figure over the house. That's how I see it. I'm in the family. And so from it, he hears this little piece from God, and I take it in, and I start seeing, like, God, is this true, and where it can speak to me? And then God shows me something. And what he'd shown me is that, hey, you're really good at doing stuff. Thanks, God. By yourself. Thanks, God. Why don't you invite me in? Why do you have to flex? I want to flex. Well, okay. Why do you have to have all the answers? I have all the answers. Yeah, I know. Why don't you like spending time with me? I'm not going to hurt you. You saw that? You're not supposed to see that, God. That's my secret. What I noticed is that in each of these stories, the deeper stories, the story of learning, the story of like joining the Wesley Academy, or the first story that I said, the spirit and flesh is what I call it, I wasn't taking responsibility of myself. I didn't understand what God had to say about me. And so the problem was I didn't like me. And I was afraid of people not liking me. God says some really cool stuff about me, but I don't believe God. I'm believing my voice versus his voice. Second story, I'm trying to take control of my future. God, it'd be irresponsible to follow you into this thing that I feel like you're calling me to. It doesn't make sense. It's so unconventional. Then he shows me how the priests lived in his temple in the Old Testament. They didn't own anything, nothing. Yet they got to be the ministers. That's a marriage term, to minister to God. It's like Adam and Eve. They would minister to each other, serve each other, give to each other, know each other. That was his priests and priestesses. And I felt like that's what he was calling me to. Of course, it doesn't make sense. Nothing on earth is built like this. That's why you're going to be here to show them. Okay, cool. The third story. I was trying to take control of my provision. Now, provision is a good thing. Scripture says that if you don't work, you ain't about to eat. You got to take care of your own stuff and invite me into it. See, what he was showing me in this season was that Jesus is a missionary, just like you, Cooper. Cool. And from it, what did he worry about? What were the demands on his life? You said that you were worried about, toilet paper and food, right? What did Jesus have to say about that? Matthew 6:33. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. That's the ending of it. The beginning part of it says, hey, don't trip about the clothes you're going to wear, don't trip about the food that you're going to wear, and don't trip about where you're going to lay your head at night. I got you. Even the greatest of kings that has been ever on earth wasn't well taken care of like I take care of the earth. It says that I got everything on you that I made, fearfully and wonderfully memorized. People sell birds for this much, and I know about it. Things fall, things rise, I know about it. How much more do you matter to me? That's the Cooper paraphrase version. I was like, dang. So from it, I did something real stupid. Chose to believe his word. That didn't make sense. That was unconventional. And I didn't buy groceries for that entire season. What? Yeah. One, didn't have the money. Two, well, Jesus didn't trip about money. Jesus didn't trip about toilet paper. Jesus didn't trip about any of the things that I'm tripping about. So here we go. I still do that. God's given me some money. Super cool. God's given me a lot of different things. I've got to see where his understanding, if this were a Bible, I got to see where his Bible and what he said can come to life today. That it's still alive. And so from it, because I get to live and work in this atmosphere, it allows me and several of us here, students, staff, anybody in between, to do that. Our campus is real special, and our church is really, really special because we actually dare to believe the things that the Bible says. And we all, including me, have stories to tell. God said this, I believed it, and then because I believed it, I have this story to tell you about him. Healing, provision, changing someone's character. I used to look more like the bad guy in a movie. Now, not so much. Just like some of us. So, from it, I'm going to go through this, write down the addresses. We're going to do something tonight, all right? God's understanding. Philippians 4, verses 6 through 7 says, do not be anxious. Repeat that with me. Do not be anxious about anything. Okay, anything. So there's a lot of things that I could be anxious about. You're telling me not to be anxious. But in every situation, that's not some, that's every, okay. Every situation, by prayer. Cool, what's prayer? The way that I can put it is prayer is your earthly invitation of divine intervention. It's the best way and shortest way that I can put it. It's where you on earth can call upon heaven, God, and he can interact from where he's at in your world right now. And it's through all kinds of forms of communicating. like a friend, like a father, like a wife, like a husband, like a boyfriend, like a girlfriend. And so from this, with prayer and petition, petition is this very emotional word. Petition is, I don't know if you've ever seen someone in need before. Like if a little kid needed something, if a little kid needed food, if a little kid needed love, if a little kid needed support, there's emotions attached to that. They act a certain way. And so from it, petition is this ugly cry of a word. I need you now, God. I need this now, God. You said this, and guess what? Because you said it. These are my words. I'm going to ask for this. And I'm not stopping till I get it because you said all of this, so now I'm going to stand on it. That's petition. With thanksgiving, present your request to God. From it, when approaching God, James 4, verses 2 through 3 speak about how the heart that we should come with. You want what you have. You want what you don't have. So you scheme and kill to get it. You ask, it's like, you're not going to do it? All right, I'm going to take it in my own hands. You are jealous of what others have, but you can't get it. So you fight and wage war to take it from them. Yet you don't have what you want because you don't ask God for it. And even when you ask, you don't get it because your motives are all wrong. So from it, we get to chin check our heart. 1 Peter 5:6 through 7 says, humble yourselves therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your anxieties on him because he cares for you. Psalm 62:8. Trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts to him, for God is our refuge. We can pour our hearts to him. Scripture speaks about how whenever we gather together, it says, truly I tell you, this is Matthew 18 through 20. Truly I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly I tell you that if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask for, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 gather in my name, there I am with them. And then 2 of my favorite ones right here. So from it, I want you to jot down 1 Corinthians 3:9 and then Luke 18:1 through 8. If the worship team would like to join me back on the stage. 1 Corinthians 3:9 says, for we are co-workers in God's service. You are God's field, God's building. Co-workers. This verse is illustrated in the life of someone in the Old Testament that we get to read about. This life is God was about to come and cast judgment on this jacked up nation. And this guy, I want to say it was Abraham, comes up and says, whoa, wait. How about you spare this, these people? And God, he's already on a path. He's like, nope, they need justice. This tribe needs a spanking. And I'm about to, but since you said something, I'll change my mind. What? I remember reading that over and over and over again as I'm learning more about prayer. And then I stumbled upon this verse, and it makes sense. We get to work with God on this earth. We're in relation with him. He's a real person. And so from it, he allowed his creation that he loves dearly to come alongside him and change things. We can interact with this realm, given what he says. All these verses that I'm reading, and I had way more, give permission to what we can do. That's why I say pray, but with his understanding. If you're anxious, if you're hurting, if you feel alone, the last one that I'm going to end with is this Luke 18:1 through 8. The beginning of this parable, Jesus told his disciples a parable. Why? To show them that they should always pray and not give up, which means you're going to want to give up. If you're like me, human, you have probably or will probably ask God for something, and he's not going to give it to you right away. And then you're going to wonder, what the heck, God? I just stood on your word, and then you're going to leave me out to dry? And then I remember reading this verse. In the season that I was in, It was like life. I felt encouraged. He's like, keep fighting, keep struggling. There's a picture of this in the Bible, of this struggle. You don't know what the heck's moving around in the spiritual realm. To where this one guy in the Bible, Daniel, living in a jacked up culture, he's praying, and then he finally just like, man, I give up. Ain't nothing changing. He's not listening, he's asleep like the other gods. This angel visits Daniel, and this angel tells Daniel, hey, why'd you stop praying? Man, I had to deal with all kinds of basically traffic because you stopped praying. All the forces that were coming, they got halted, got real intense. That snapshot gave me this understanding of like, man, keep praying, stand on his word. But my feelings say, no, this more than feelings, this above your feelings. Make this your feelings. And until this is your feelings, you keep going. Because Scripture says this is real faulty. And Scripture says that this is real faulty. But this, not faulty. So I'm going to trust this over this and this. Until this and this look like this. That makes sense? Then he goes into this parable, this story about this unjust judge. Judge doesn't care about God. Judge doesn't care about people. And this lady's like, yo, this adversary could be the devil. Hey, this adversary could be the dark voice inside of you. Yo, this adversary could be someone who's listening to the devil or that dark voice inside of them, and they're messing with you or your family or your loved one or insert something. I need justice. I need your help. Render a judgment against them so that I can be set free. Judge says, no. This lady bugs, and she bugs, and she bugs, and she bugs. The judge ends up saying, man, this lady is going to kill me with how much she's bugging me. I'll render her justice so she can just leave me the heck alone. Then God says, and the Lord said, listen to what the unjust judge says, and will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones, that's you, who cry out to him day and night, today, tomorrow, today, tomorrow. Will he keep putting them off? It's funny, whenever God asks a question, he's not looking for an answer. He's trying to tell you something. Will he keep putting them off? He's basically saying, I'm not going to keep putting you off. I hear you. I'm listening. Because then he says, I tell you that he, God, will see that they get justice. I'm going to deal with that punk. I'm going to deal with that person hurting you. I'm going to deal with that affliction. You think I feel good when that happens? No. You think I was okay when the world fell and what sin and everything did to it? No. That wasn't my intention. But it's cool. I came to die so that all that can get reversed, and you're going to see that wholeness if you just believe and hold on to my understanding. If you just fight with me. If you just fight alongside me. Not fight me. Fight with me. Come be next to me. Come be my companion. I tell you, he will see that they get justice, and quickly. However, when I come, am I really going to find that type of faith on the earth? We can release the prayer people and we could turn off the lights. If there is anything that I've spoken about that I've just kind of like, gotten out of me, has spoken to you about where you're at with God, about where your understanding is and where his understanding is, and if anything from his understanding has confronted your understanding, please deal with that tonight. We have people that want to speak over you. If any of that is, hey, Coop, I don't like myself just like you did. Cool, I'm glad you're here. Because they're going to speak what God thinks about you. Coop, I'm stressed about blank, anything, big, small. See, what I've learned about relationships, if God is really a real person, is that what you care about, he cares about. Not because maybe necessarily he cares about that thing, but he does. But because he cares about you. Because he cares about you, what you care about, he now cares about. That's how love works. I'm learning about that right now. So from it, maybe you're tired, spent, weak. Please, go pray with somebody. Maybe you're offended at somebody. Please, Please admit that you're offended at somebody. There's no judgment. There's no condemnation. There's no guilt trip here. That's not how God rolls. Want to deal with that. You and some other person, some other persons deal with this offense that's trying to poison you, shackle you, keep you down so that you don't live the way that you're supposed to. Maybe you're worried about something. Maybe you don't like people. Maybe you're scared of people. I have verses on my phone that have to rewire my mind. I read them over and over again because sometimes I don't like people. Sometimes I'm scared of people. Maybe you don't know how to pray. If you don't know how to pray, I'm going to be right here and we can pray. So from it, let's build our life upon his love and what he's given us to build it on. The altars are open.